Hey guys, and welcome to Leaguecraft 101. Today I'm going to be talking about split pushing and using it to end games or create insurmountable leads. The first thing about split pushing is to understand who wins split lane matchups and try and allocate them accordingly. If I have Gangplank top against Maokai top, I know that Gangplank wins that matchup later in the game. Generally speaking, assassins like Zed and carry champions like Tryndamere, Fiora, and Gangplank are great split pushers because they can win many matchups in the split push later in the game. It's very important to understand when to split push. The first time is when you have a bad team fight compared to the enemy team. Generally speaking, a good indicator for if their team fight is stronger than yours is to count the tanks, and whoever has a deficit is probably worse off. One thing that a lot of players don't understand when split pushing is that your split push groups need to be in the same split push sections to correctly leverage the pressure. In this image, a classic example is your ally Singe will run into the red section while his allies are still in the green section on bot side. When he dies to the enemy team collapsing on him, he'll say something like, "Lol, you guys are idiots, 4 top and can't even do anything." Since you're too far away from the objective, you can't capitalize on the enemy team sending so many people to kill Singed. The way you circumvent this is to have pressure in areas equivalently far down the map at the same time. This means spam pinging him back while saying, "Wait for us to pressure," and having both parties in the same section at the same time. In this example, I'm playing Anivia, and our team wants to split up the team on the left so that their teamfight isn't so powerful. Malphite MF is a pretty terrifying combo to play against, and we have no tank, so we're going to die immediately. At this point, we're slightly ahead, and we want to get the objectives on the map. In this case, bot inner turret is still up, and we have 2 teleports available on me and Master Yi. It's very important that I don't venture further towards their inner turret until their team has drawn pressure elsewhere. This means when I see people rotating towards me, I back off, wait, and ping things on the other side of the map. Here I want to slowly creep my vision back towards where they've denied it. It's possible that they're still rotating down towards me, so I use the wall for vision and save my blue trinket, because I know that I'll need it later. I wait until people show on the map, so I have the information I need before proceeding. Notice how I'm waiting for Talon to build up some equivalent pressure top before continuing to pressure myself. When I see 4 of them show themselves mid, I know only MF is at bottom and she can't stop me from taking the turret, so I can go in and take it for free. Split pushing is all about playing this cat and mouse game and ensuring that pressure is built up at the same time across the map, especially if you're squishy or you're slow and can't escape easily. The second normal reason that you'd want to split push is due to having trouble sieging, and making progress on the turret through their wave clear is difficult. In this even game, despite having Baron buff, it's difficult to make progress on their middle turret, because I'm afraid of getting flash stunned by TF or Renekton. As a result, we keep space, and then we keep the enemies at mid lane so that our Corki can make progress on the bottom turret. At this point, you should be extremely wary of enemy hard engage, and so if you're the carry, you should try and stay outside of flash initiate range. Rinse and repeat this to get all the turrets on the map, and clean out the enemy jungle, and then start building a gold lead. So split pushing in solo queue has always been difficult, because it's hard to get your teammates to split push and not get caught. For that reason, I tend to like being the one split pushing myself, or calling the shots, because I know I have control over whether we screw up or not. A big part of split pushing successfully in solo queue is pinging aggressively and communicating in chat to inform your team on what to do. There are a few important things to think about when split pushing. The first is understanding the wards that you have to not get caught. As the blue team in this scenario, you should have wards in the green spot to watch the approach. You should also ask your team to have a ward at the red spot in the middle of mid lane to prevent the enemy team from wrapping around behind to kill you. I personally prefer taking yellow trinket when splitting so that I can put my own wards, but if you happen to have a red trinket because you're playing an assassin like Fizz or Zed, then a control ward is enough, but just ensure to put it right on the edge of a bush. The targeting reticule will show up as green if it's going to be inside the bush. So when split pushing, the enemy's going to think about hard engage, so think about what your response to that is going to be. If you don't have a good response to your team getting caught, think about whether split pushing is actually the correct option, because your team will almost certainly get caught at one point or another. In addition, you have to take the enemy team composition into account. If they have a Scion or a Blitzcrank, it's almost inevitable that your team's going to get caught, so be considerate of that. Generally speaking, you get a rough feeling for how unreliable your team is as the game goes on. If you're the split pusher, and you feel like your team isn't trustworthy, then you should probably either group with your team or have a plan because they're almost bound to get caught. In this example, when I show bottom and they have Scion, it's quite likely that they're going to look for a hard engage. When you can see an enemy aggressively posturing to do this, just repetitively clear waves and walk halfway back towards your team so that you can rotate quickly if the enemy team decides to engage. And then you can always go back to split push the wave if nothing's happening. So after the engage, I know that Lux has used binding and I'm too far away to get hit by Nami bubble. So after porting in, I can pop Ghost and have free access to one-shot their backline, and then walk back to cut off their escape route. When I play TF or anybody would teleport, when my team gets hard engaged, this at least grants me good backline access to one-shot their carries, because they have to commit a bunch of resources to the pick. So the next point is that it's important to split push furthest away from the objective that you want. In this example, we have a Jax who's died 13 times, but he's pretty strong. I know he's really unreliable and he doesn't communicate, but he also somewhat listens to instructions. By sending him bottom, we can play around Baron, and if they don't do anything, he'll eventually be able to break through Renekton and win the game. I tell my team to wait for Jax to get pressure first, and then warn them that Blitzcrank could be in this bush. My team ignores me, but luckily he misses his hook. If the enemy sends somebody bottom here to help Renekton deal with Jax, then they have to run all the way back to Baron, which allows us to take Baron or win a Baron fight. Since it's solo queue, even with all these warnings, people are bound to get caught, or they'll get impatient and try and start Baron. You have to have a plan for how you're going to deal with this. So in this case, our Graves plays with a lot of bravado and he gets caught out. Our team then gets impatient and tries to start Baron, which is a horrible idea. We don't commit for the Baron and back off, but then Nami gets hooked. Luckily I have a lot of zone control so we can turn the fight pretty well, while Jax stops Renekton from teleporting in. After winning the fight, we end up taking Baron and then winning the game. I won't go too much into splitting with tanks because it's pretty self-explanatory, but I will talk about split pushing with assassins. So split pushing with assassins is usually quite good because they force the enemy to put a tank to defend you. This is because the assassin can one-shot everybody under the turret except for the tank, so they're either forced to send 2 members to defend and protect each other, or send a tank. So 1-3-1 is a good split push setup, because having 3-person stack in the mid lane means you can react to rotations faster. On the downside, since the 3 stack is in the mid lane, they're more easily flanked. If you have a 1-1-3 setup with a 3 stack in the side lane, that can defend you from flanks, but you're also slower to rotate your 3 stack around. So in this example, we have a 1-3-1 split push setup with double teleports. Notice how in the absence of people on the map, I'm playing it quite carefully because no one's shown themselves. Here I could commit to kill Vayne, but it's hard to hit Fish here, and Vayne's not an idiot, so by standing in my kill range, I'm very sure that she's baiting and that Zyra is hiding around the tower. The only time I would actually try and kill Vayne at this instant is if everybody's shown on the map, or I have flash, and I can kill her despite somebody being there. As a result, I just opt to kill the turret, and sure enough, Zyra's hiding around the corner. So knowing when to commit for a kill because you saw multiple people on the map, versus having restraint because you don't have complete information is very important. So the final thing to talk about is assisting people in losing split push matchups. In this example, I know that Fiora beats Maokai in the split push, so they're bound to send Fiora to defend my Maokai. As a result, I know the easiest way to turn the game is to kill Fiora when she comes to defend. By killing Fiora, we give Maokai a lot of pressure and make it very difficult for the Fiora to defend in the future. It's very important to think about what the opponent's next move is and how to counter or exploit it. I really like thinking about how to force enemies into lose-lose situations, and I encourage you guys to do the same. So thanks for watching guys, and hope you learned something. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know what videos you want to see in the comments, and until next time, peace.